Hey, thanks for stopping by Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. As always, make sure you're checking out the subscription button down there, and that you are also checking out the bell icon so that you can uh, make sure you're getting all notifications. I don't do these live videos very often, and I'm doing this one through StreamYard today, which you can see there. I've got the little scrolly thing going on um, right here on the front end. Make sure that you are going to Indy's Coffee and that you are using the promo code MBRR fans coffee. All right. Because that'll give you 10% off your cart while you're waiting for me to turn around and get off my butt and actually make a decision on what flavor of roast we're going to be going with for the Minnesota Black Robe Regiment label. Their coffee is stunning, by the way. It's absolutely killer in a positive light. So this morning, I received a phone call from Randy Petersen of the Rochester Post Bulletin, and I listened to the voicemail, and then I was sitting here weighing, well, do I want to talk to a reporter? I told him flat out when I did talk to him, and I did, like, okay, I'm going to trust your integrity. And as a neutral or an unbiased newspaper reporter. And then he sent me a message through Facebook saying, "Hey, I really want to talk to you. I'm a local government reporter, and your name has come up." And I'm like, "Oh crap!" Not because I'm worried about what I've done, but it's, when you got a reporter from the third largest metro area in the state of Minnesota saying, "Hey, your name has come up," that can be a little, should we say, disconcerting, right? So it was a little disconcerting that he had heard my name. Well, as the conversation came along, it turns out that my name had come up in particular in reference to some of my interactions with the mayor of Rochester. And I guess what it kind of boils down to is that people are starting to ask questions like, what's the point? And that's what he asked me. So what's the point? What's your point in interacting with these public officials on their social media? And what do you see as the end goal of all of this? And it was actually ended up being what I think is a very good conversation. And I told him, I said, "Look, please don't try and paint me into this radical far right extremist position." And I referenced, since January 6th of 2021, dissent is often seen as a precursor to radicalization. And when you're dealing with something like dissent, and if you're watching this live, by the way, chime in, let me know that you're watching. I'd love to take questions and hear your feedback. And then share this around if you would. I've never done one of these where people can comment live. So comment section is open, by the way. So basically what it boils down to is that my name came up as he was conversing with a local elected representative. And this person had said, "Look, hey, I don't know what his end goal is." And I brought up the fact that yesterday, on Wednesday, I actually came to the defense of Mayor Norton of Rochester, because she posted pictures from National Night Out on Tuesday night. And this person came on and basically insinuated that the cops that were there for Rochester shouldn't have been in uniform because it makes people nervous. And I came to her defense and I said, "Man, like, that's ridiculous. You're allowing your own implicit bias against law enforcement to paint this into some sort of picture that it doesn't need to be painted as." And that's not exactly how I said it. And I even said, "Look, I don't defend Kim Norton very often. I don't. I have no animosity towards Kim. I really don't. I know people don't believe me when I say that. I do not have a personal animus towards Kim Norton. It's not that I don't care. Kim Norton is an image bearer of God, just like I am, and just like you are if you're watching this. Kim Norton is she's deserving of human dignity. And but I don't have a personal animus towards her, and I also don't have a liking for her. I'm not ambivalent. If somebody were trying to hurt Kim, I would come to her defense, just like I did yesterday when this person kind of brought this ridiculous comment about law enforcement involvement in the National Night Out. It was a law enforcement event started years ago by law enforcement. And so I'm just not going to get bent out of shape if cops show up at law enforcement. But what I did point out to Randy from the Rochester Post Bulletin was that I defended her, and her response to the individual who took issue with cops being in uniform at the National Night Out was very measured and very reasonable. But then another individual came on and said that she didn't understand Kim's initial comments and that they were as clear as mud. And so then Kim turned around and kind of chided this individual for being from a city, and she said, well, maybe it's a such and such city thing. Now, I took Kim to task on that, and here's why. This individual challenges her for cops being at a National Night Out event. Kim responds in a very measured, very understandable way, but then chides this other individual. Now, I'm pretty sure that both the individuals were not constituents of Rochester. So why? And this question came up from Randy. He says, like, hey, look, you don't live in Rochester, so you're not officially even a constituent. And I would dispute that, in that I do a ton of business in Rochester. I do commerce in Rochester. And there are a lot of people who live outside of Rochester, who work in Rochester, who commute to Rochester, who shop in Rochester, who seek their entertainment in Rochester. And Rochester bills itself as the international city, which means that Kim Norton is the mayor of an international city. And so it's not just an international city, it is a regional city. And she has people who do those things at commerce and entertainment and business and they work there, who are directly impacted by the decisions that people like Kim Norton and the Rochester City Council make. So the fact that they're not from there doesn't mean that they don't have a voice. And I want to say something else too. And I said this to Randy. Part of the reason why we're seeing this animosity between elected servants and appointed servants and we the people is part and parcel because we the people have been lackadaisical and lazy in our involvement in self-governance. We vote for people, we put them in office, and we then turn around and walk away and butt out, and we don't seem to care at all about what happens after we vote for people until something comes along and it upsets us. And I don't care if, and I said this to Randy as well, like, if you are all about police reform, if you're all about police being held accountable for their negative activities when they happen, you can't wait until another George Floyd situation arises. You can't wait until another person is shot and killed by law enforcement or dies in law enforcement custody to get involved. You need to go and be involved well before, so that you have a voice that's legitimized by your involvement. And the same thing goes for those of us like me who are right of center. And I have no problems telling people that. I've admitted I'm paleo conservative. I am right of center. And that shifts. Like, sometimes I'm to the left of people on the right, and there are times I'm to the right, far right of people on the right, because they're more centrist, they're more progressive, if you will. So as that Overton window shifts, all of us shift on that spectrum, right? But the right has the same problem. We don't give a flying rip about something until it gets under our craw, and then we show up to school board meetings and we go in there and we shout at school board chairs and superintendents about, critical theory and the posting of Black Lives Matter material in the school district. And then we go in there and we shout and we say our thing, and then we walk away and we're not involved anymore. And I told Randy this as well. You go to a school board meeting, you go to a city council meeting, you go to a county board meeting, you're only there for the public comment section, then you get up and leave, you might as well not go at all because you're still disinterested. You just wanted to go and voice your dissent. Look, the First Amendment doesn't grant us anything. The First Amendment delineates what God has granted us, which is the freedom of speech. And in that freedom of speech is ensconced the right to a redress of grievances. And we're not being heard, which is why you're seeing this groundswell of people showing up at school board meetings and city council meetings and county board meetings and public library boards and committee meetings and stuff, because we're not being heard. We're sending emails, we're sending requests to be heard, and we're not being heard. And so people are going to start showing up, and they're going to start voicing their dissent, and they're going to start demanding a redress for grievances. And if we want those regresses to be addressed, we have to stay engaged. And public servants, elected and appointed, need to make sure that they're listening and responding, and they're not just ignoring the emails, and they're not just ignoring the letters. See, it's a two-way street. But it's a two-way street that meets right here in the middle of reliability and responsibility, right? It's on us as we the people, a government of the people, for the people, by the people, a self-governing people, to hold these people accountable. And it's on them to answer to us and not ignore us. You want to know where the groundswell of public involvement and public discourse is why it's happening right now, where it came from? It's coming from the fact that no one's listening. No one's listening. They're blowing us off. Look, the left has a right to be upset, because most of the time, nobody will listen to them about something that's corrupt in the justice system until somebody dies. And the right has a right to be upset because nobody will listen to us until our voices are silenced. And we lose our tempers and we say things in public meetings that we shouldn't. And that's on both sides. And so I don't have an animus towards people who are in public office. I might despise your ideological worldview, but I will defend to the death your freedom to say it and hold those things. That's what this country's about, is the ability to disagree civilly and fight against one another's ideological positions without having to hate the other person. Now, I know that sounds absolutely asinine, because we're so emotionally invested in what we believe that we feel like if you don't agree with my ideological worldview, you have to be my enemy. And we can be ideological opponents, but we don't have to be enemies. Had a conversation with somebody earlier today, listening in on a conversation that they were having. And this concept of, well, we're not here as adversarial people. No, it's not true. We are adversarial. We are absolutely adversarial. When we disagree, there is an adversarial reality to our relationship, but it doesn't have to be hostile. That adversarial ideological worldview doesn't have to lead to hostility. It does at times. Have I been hard on Kim Norton of Rochester? Absolutely, I've been hard on her. Have I questioned her integrity in how she responds to people? Absolutely, I have. But there's no hostility in me towards her. I don't wish her any ill will. And as I've said in so many of my videos, over and over and over again, I don't advocate for any kind of violence. I advocate for a very, very, very verbally and intellectually forceful disagreement. I believe that it is high time that elected and appointed servants begin to hear out the people who have put them in the positions that they're in. Period. And when you act as an official representative of a local public entity, whether it be a city or a county or a board of some sort, you have a responsibility to treat everyone in the same manner, regardless of their ideological positions. And that doesn't happen. Look, we're seeing this play out over and over and over again. The Owatonna Public School District School Board has gone above and beyond to ignore people, and the people have finally risen up and said, no, you're going to start paying attention to us. And why has it been so hard? Because for years the people weren't paying attention to the Owatonna Public School Board or to the things that the school superintendents have done. It's the same thing in Albert Lea. It's the same thing with the Albert Lea City Council and the Albert Lea School Board. It's the same thing with the Rochester School Board and the Rochester City Council and the Olmsted County Board. People haven't been paying attention, so they've been operating with impunity. Talking with Randy, he said he was at public meetings yesterday, and people showed up and they spoke, and then as the meeting went on, they dwindled away to the point where he was the only one left in the room. And somewhat tongue-in-cheek, the chair of the meeting said, does anybody here have anything they like to share? And Randy was the only one there. That's a problem, we the people. That's a problem. Look, this is an open and honest invite. Mayor Norton, you went on the barbershop show there out of Rochester. Now, granted, they're your official constituents, but they also had Superintendent Jeff Elstead from Owatonna on their show, and they've had other people from outside of their town on their show. So, Mayor Norton, this is my personal invite to you. I don't dislike you. I don't like you. I'm ambivalent about you in a relational way. I don't like your worldview. Our worldviews are adamantly opposed. But Mayor Norton, this is again, like not even a debate, a conversation. Let's have a conversation. Since my name came up, let's have a conversation. Let's talk about what your role as mayor is. Let's talk about what your role as an official representative of the city of Rochester, the international city of Rochester, the regional city of Rochester, the third largest metro area. Let's talk about what your role is and how you should be talking to the people that are your constituents. Instead of belittling pastors in your town, instead of belittling people for where they live, and in basically implying that somehow because they're from a certain area, they must have the lack of ability to understand you when you type out phrases that are, quite honestly, aren't always clear, and sometimes when they are clear, they're pointed and rude. So let's have a conversation, Kim. Come on my show. I'm not going to yell at you. I'm not going to treat you like you're some sort of enemy. We have an adversarial view of one another in the sense that our views are different. But come on and let's talk about it. Let's talk about whether or not you truly represent everybody in Rochester, or if you only represent those who agree with you. Like, I would love to have that conversation. I've tried, not always nice to you. I hate that word. Like, I don't like being nice. But as you know, yesterday I defended you, Kim. I defended you. And once again, people, this topic came up. Randy said, well, what about those people? And are you one of those who thinks that Kim is disqualified because of her gender? What? Those words have never come out of my mouth. That's the most asinine. If that's your view, I don't want to be friends with you. Okay? If you believe that the only thing that disqualifies Kim is that she's female, that she's a woman or a lady, however you want to say it, if that's what you believe disqualifies her, I don't want to be friends with you. Okay? We can have some theological differences about who can and cannot be a pastor and whatnot, and that's a conversation we can have at another time. But when it comes to her position as an elected representative, elected servant of the people of Rochester, the international city of Rochester, leave that out of it. Like, there are things to critique about Kim's worldview, her ideological positions that are worthy of critique. If your only critique is the argumentum ad hominem against the man, like, oh, she's a woman, so she's just stupid, or she can't run things, like, then you're the weakness. Okay, you are the weakness. If the way that you voice your dissent in people is to call them names and swear at them in Rochester at a school board meeting or things like that, You're the weakness. And that goes for both sides of the argumentation, the left and the right. You're not helping yourself. You're not helping your cause. Do I believe in righteous indignation? Absolutely. I absolutely 100% believe in righteous indignation. I'm 100% for righteous indignation. But what I'm not for is people who, in their righteous indignation, resort to personal attacks. I won't brook that. I will not brook that. I will have no truck with that, as the old timers used to say. And that we should be intellectually and logically involved enough, not evolved, involved enough, that we can bring our emotions into subjection to our intellect, especially if we're Christians. Am I always good at that? Nope. Sometimes I lose my temper. Sometimes I say things that I regret later on. So, and I want to say this one more time. Like, Randy, I doubt you're going to see this, but I wanted to put this out to people so that when the article comes out, they can understand where I'm coming from. If he even mentions me in the article, I don't know. I jokingly said, well, I probably didn't give you anything exciting because I wasn't calling for some sort of weird conspiratorial and radical views. All that I've been trying to do for a long time, for many years actually, but especially for the last year and a half now, since I launched this channel, all that I've been trying to do is to get the citizens to wake up and get involved. Get involved. Get off your butts and stop complaining and get involved. Get involved. Get out there to the board meetings. Get out there to the city council meetings. Show up at the county board meetings. And if they're not convenient to you for work, then demand that they change the times. Like, there's something to be said for the reason why they might hold a county board meeting at 1 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon. Do you think that maybe, just maybe, they know people are too busy working to show up, so they just have it then because they don't have to worry about facing resistance? Does that sound radical? It might sound radical. Do I believe that that's actually something that they think about? Absolutely, I do. I absolutely believe that they take that into consideration. I don't argue that at all. But you need to get involved. Do like the people in Owatonna are doing and demand a change of venue for the school board meetings because they know that people are going to show up. Make sure that people are showing up to city council meetings. Show up with decorum, but with the demand to be heard. That's the biggest thing, and there again, Mr. Petersen, Randy, I respect you for reaching out to me. Like, you didn't know what you were going to get, and as you've told me, people have treated you in a hostile way during conversations and after you've written articles. Look, I once again, Mr. Petersen, I'm gonna trust that your ethics and your integrity as a unbiased, and there again, we all know everybody's got a bias and a preconceived notion. Like, it's just impossible. I have an agenda. I'm driving for conservative political involvement. But Mr. Petersen, please, make sure that you accurately report what I said. Because I love my republic, and I would never do anything to hurt it, and I would never do anything to hurt a person. And I would do something to hinder somebody's political advancement. I mean, that's the entire point of campaigning and running for office and having a political view. I want people who agree with me in office all over the country, not just in my little town and not just in other small municipalities, but all over the country. I would love if everybody, I don't want everybody to agree with me 100%, but I would love if the majority of people holding elected and appointed service positions had my views. I'm 100% convinced that this country would be heading in a far different direction, and it would be a lot safer, a lot healthier, and a lot wealthier for everybody. So, Mr. Petersen, please treat our conversation with the respect and dignity that I did my level best to treat you with. And once again, Mayor Norton, I realize I'm not one of your constituents, but if you can go on a show like the barbershop show there in Rochester, and you can go and talk to people from other places, then come on here Let's talk about what our differences are. Let's talk about them. Why can't you? It's not an accusation about your intelligence or your intellect. It's not an accusation about your reasoning for doing anything. I know that we're diametrically opposed, worldview wise. Do I believe that you want to hurt people? I do not. I don't believe that you want to hurt people. But I also disagree that what you do want to do is going to be helpful. And as I say so often in my videos, and until next time, don't worry about whether or not you're protected from illness or if you're comfortable. Don't worry about those things. What you should be fighting for, what you should be concerned for, is your voice. Fight to be heard. Fight for your liberties. Fight for your freedoms. Fight for your responsibility in those things as well. And defy tyrants. Sic semper tyrannis.